Alright guys, so what we're doing today is first cleaning up my garage where we can do some videos in here. Second, I wanted to do kind of like a behind the scenes of one of our new programs. It's called One Man One Kettlebell, and the reason I kind of want to do one behind the scenes really about how the program is made is because I've never really seen that done before. And I'm sure a lot of people are kind of interested in the process we have for creating new programs, testing new programs, and all that jazz. So that's what we're going to do today. Show you how One Man One Kettlebell is made. Alright, so I knew when we were making One Man One Kettlebell, it was going to have to be an epic program or system, as we like to call them, because a few years ago, a little over 5 years ago, I released a program called One Man One Barbell, and we've had over 5,000 athletes use that program with a lot of success. So I knew when we were putting together this program, it'd be no different. We'd have to have a really good system in place, a lot of athletes with proven results before we could put it out into the world. But really it came down to 4 things that we were going to need to make this system the most effective possible. The first thing we were going to need was a way for an athlete to be able to select a kettlebell that they use throughout the entire program. That way it's actually a one kettlebell program. They don't need multiple kettlebells to be able to do the program. The second thing that we were going to need is athletes to test the program. And if you're going to have athletes to test it, the third thing obviously would be some sort of baseline testing. So a test that they can take at the beginning of the program and then again at the end of the program to see if they actually increase their score. And the last thing any good or solid training system or program is going to need is a ton of research and reading on kettlebell training or the training that you're doing. And that's exactly what we did. So let's talk about each one of those in a little bit more detail. All right, so let's go about thing one real quick. What we had was, like I said, a way for the athlete to be able to, pick a kettlebell. So if you wanted to go to a store and select your kettlebell, you could actually do this test in the store without really breaking a sweat or anything. And we had a lot of different ideas coming up with it, and we finally landed on, after doing a lot of research and testing of different athletes, what we call the 10 not 11 strength test. So what you're going to be doing is a strict kettlebell press overhead, feet shoulder width apart. You're not going to bend the legs or use any sort of momentum in the lift. It is a strict press. And the reason we call it 10 not 11 is because we want you to be able to get 10 repetitions, not 11. So you got to keep going up and wait until you find where that 10 rep maximum is. And this is going to be both for the right arm and the left arm. I'll do a quick demo, then I'll explain your score. So I have it in the front rack position, press it overhead, back down to the front rack position, press it overhead, back down. And I'm looking to find 10 reps. I don't want to be doing 13, 14, 15 reps. But then my score, what I would write down at the end of this after I did my right arm and left arm, the score would be the weight of the kettlebell in pounds. So if that is what I actually used for my scored test, my score would be 53. Second thing you need if you're going to really put together a good program that you want to be effective and proven is you're clearly going to need some athletes to test it, right? So luckily at End of 3 Fitness and through our Garage Gym athlete programming, we have thousands of athletes that are willing to take on our challenges and our fitness tests. And that's what we did. I reached out inside the group and we ended up with about 100 athletes to go through the beta round of One Man One Kettlebell. And that was our initial test. And that's where we grabbed our pool. Being a fully online company now, we grabbed our pool of athletes online, created it, set it up in the Facebook group, and then had the athletes knock it out. After you kind of have a way to select your implement with the 10 not 11 strength test, we have our athletes, then you're going to need some sort of baseline test to test the athletes. And I won't get into all the specifics. What we ended up doing, there's some kettlebell swings in it, there's some running in it. There was the 10 not 11 strength test that was a part of it. There's some kettlebell snatches, Tabata kettlebell swings, and that was pretty much it. We also had like a short 10-second power test we called the 10-second battle test. But the main idea was not to just throw together as many different tests as we possibly could. The real idea was to test every energy system and energy pathway that we could that was possible and test it effectively. And so we ended up going into the aerobic zone with that more, with running. We did some of that strength test for more of that creatine phosphate energy system, and then the glycolytic doing like 3-minute kettlebell snatch test. So the main idea of throwing all those tests together, and you can look below this video, I'll have the entire test in there that you guys can take. But the reason we put it together was to fully test someone's energy system, so we know if we're increasing them across every domain. So not only do you get a score to test the beginning and end to see if you got better, but you can also look individually and be like, okay, I got better in these 2 areas, but not here, so my aerobic capacity needs work, or I got better in aerobic, but I'm really still lacking in this overall pressing strength. And so that's the test that we were trying to put together. But the coolest thing about it is you do get a score. So you could say, okay, my score on, my pre-doing the program was 1200. You do the entire program, then you finish with like a 1450. And so that's how that works. You get a score at the beginning, score at the end, and you can see if you really improved or if you sucked. All right, the last thing that you need if you want to put together a good program, and what we did, it's pretty easy as a coach once you've trained, hundreds of people, you put together a lot of programs, you've seen a lot of success with your athletes. It's easy to start to only rely on what you know and what you've experienced. And to some degree, coaches should rely on that. As you gain more experience, you should be, going back to things that you've seen, what's worked, what doesn't work. But I don't think that ever excuses you from actually looking at the research and the data of what's working, what's being put out in the industry. And so one thing that we did, we pulled up every study that we could find on kettlebells, kettlebell training, how it increased different energy pathways, how it increased overall fitness, strength, everything that we could find. We put all of that together and we read through that before we started developing any of the workouts to make sure that they're going to be the most effective and move that fitness test, like we said, from your baseline to being increased at the end. After we had those 4 things, it actually gets painfully easy and a little bit boring at this point, because all you need is to post the workouts every single day, which I did in the Facebook group. Then you need the athletes to test them and stick to it, so they were doing that. And you just go through this kind of monotonous process, posting the workout, they do it. You guys know how a program works. It's pretty simple from there. They execute the program. But then the coolest thing at the end is to see the results. And that wouldn't be a program. You guys would never see it. You wouldn't be watching this video had the results sucked. And I'll post some screenshots to some of the results. And what you're seeing is the fitness test, their overall fitness test increasing, going from that initial baseline score to an increased score. And then that's what it is. You see the results, you're onto something, it's working, and so then you press forward with it. And that is how we made One Man One Kettlebell. All right, guys, and that's pretty much it. Once you have some athletes to test it, you've done your reading, you've done your research, you have a way for your athletes to select the implement, and you have everything that you need. You have a proven and effective program, and I'm really pumped to finally be able to release One Man One Kettlebell to you guys. I hope it helps you crush your training goals as much as One Man One Barbell did, and I look forward to seeing your results.